Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Barack Lesnar of Barack Lesnar Hoops. And today's video is going to be a sleepers video / undervalued players video. So really the whole point is these are players that I believe will outperform where you're drafting them. That's really what it comes down to more than anything. That makes them undervalued. Players that I normally recommend you not draft are players that you're drafting way higher than I am anticipating they're going to perform. That's typically why I will tell you not to draft a player. So there are caveats. If I tell you not to draft a player, then if you get them at a really good spot that's closer to what their value would be, then you should draft them. But that's for a different video. I just wanted to give that clarification. So I'm gonna get right into this. If you enjoy Barack Lesnar Hoops content, which apparently a lot of you still do, thank you for the shout outs and the comments. As far as this video, we're gonna start with Damien Lillard. All right, make sure you're liking and subscribing if you do like the content. But anyways, back to Damien Lillard. I have him as the first player I want to discuss because he's projected to be number 3 overall, and he definitely has the potential to do that. He has a lot of usage, hits a ton of threes, hit over 4 3-pointers. I remember when that was Steph Curry only territory, but the league has changed quite a lot. The field goal percentage, considering how many threes he hits, is really good. Free throw percentage is elite. Not a guy you're drafting because you want steals and blocks, though you can definitely, I'd say I'd consider punching blocks if I started with someone like Damien Lillard. So considering his average pick is 7 and he has the potential of being a top 3 kind of guy, that's why I have him there. He's typically healthy. He's still not very old. He doesn't typically have a lot of injury issues. He seems to improve every single season. Because of all of those factors, I wanted him to be the first person that I suggest to you. And I'm sure you noticed, but I did have to wear my Milwaukee Bucks championship hat. It feels good. It feels so good. But all right, anyways, Anthony Davis. He has an average pick of 12, all right? So he's actually being drafted higher than he's projected to go. So I believe the projections are probably going to be accurate, but this is Anthony Davis, a guy who we were drafting not even a year ago. In the last few years, he was the go-to number 1 guy if you weren't picking James Harden. He's injury prone. He had the Achilles issue last year. He missed a lot of time, and that really hurt his value. Now they're adding Russell Westbrook to the mix, but something I don't think this is accounting for is Anthony Davis will be playing center a lot of minutes. That is going to really open things up for him to get more blocks per game, to get that field goal percentage up. Anthony Davis is playing center. That's going to help those defensive numbers. He already doesn't hit a ton of threes, so the impact to his 3-pointers will be negligible. Hopefully he gets that free throw percentage up. That impacted his value significantly, and if he can get that free throw percentage up, his value would increase significantly. So Anthony Davis at an average pick of 12, if I'm around number 9, 10, I would draft Anthony Davis because he's a guy that's proven he can have top 1 by a mile type value. His production he brings to your team is insane. You know, in the best case scenario, he does come with a lot of red flags, which is why his value has dropped. But in a video with sleepers that are being slept on, I think Anthony Davis absolutely fits the bill. Paul George is someone else I think is going to have a great season. The average pick is almost 14. I'm pretty sure that's around where he was being drafted last year, and he was being drafted there with a healthy Kawhi Leonard. Now Kawhi Leonard is likely gone for the majority of the season, which means Paul George is going to have the greenest of green lights for a guy that hits as many 3-pointers as he does. We've seen in the past he gets a lot of steals. I don't know if that's going to go up. We might see that start dropping off. We might get 1 out of him. It's probably not going to be the 1.5 plus you used to get from him. The turnovers, I could see that creeping up closer to 4. The field goal percentage might take slight hit. free throw percentage should remain elite, and we might see these 3-pointers per game go up to 4. He's a very dynamic player, and we might even see those assists go up. So with a guy you're drafting at 13.7 on average, he has the potential to have a top 5 season with Kawhi Leonard gone. I think Paul George makes a lot of sense, especially if you're drafting at 12. You're at the end. He's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck, give you that stud. With my strategy, I like building my team around my first guy, and Paul George is a guy that's easy to build around. You're probably going to be ignoring blocks and field goal percentage to some capacity, and possibly turnovers. So if you're building around Paul George, you're going to really want to accentuate his threes and other factors. John Collins is criminally underrated in my opinion. The projections have him at 19. He was an average pick of 42.6. So people are down on him, and I don't understand why. So this is a guy who's getting you over a 3 per game. He's getting you a block per game. He's keeping the turnovers low. I like to punt assist, so for my type of builds, he works perfectly well. Really high field goal percentage, really high free throw percentage. He's a young player too. He has another year of experience, and he's at that age where I can see a pretty big leap for him. I wouldn't be surprised if we see scoring closer to 19 points per game. The rebounds, as long as Clint Capella's healthy, will probably be around 7. The assist is not something I would expect to ever change much. You might get 2 out of him at some point in his prime, but I don't see that changing too much. Steals is not something I draft him for. The blocks, I'd say the low ones, 1.5 would be, top defensive season for him. I don't think he'll ever be a 2 block per game guy. But again, when he's hitting 3-pointers, and this could creep up as well, and he does so at a really high field goal percentage and free throw percentage, that makes him a unicorn and somebody I love building around. So you'll see John Collins on a lot of my teams as long as his average pick is so low. And Clint Capella's dealing with that Achilles issue. They're already managing it during preseason. So I anticipate rest games for him. And when Clint Capella has those rest games, I think we'll see some 2012 type games from John Collins. All right, so Fred VanVleet is projected to be in the top 9, and he's going at an average pick of 24. So why do I like Fred VanVleet? His field goal percentage is really bad, okay? Let's get that out of the way. So he's going to hurt your field goal percentage, but he gets elite steals numbers. He gets 0.7 blocks per game despite being a pretty undersized even for a point guard. Under 2 turnovers per game. He's getting you over 6 assists. He's getting you over 4 rebounds, getting you close to 20 points per game, over 3 3-pointers per game. He's helping you in almost every single category except field goal percentage. He doesn't have that name value either, so people tend to sleep on him and underrate him. You will see him on a lot of my teams as well, especially when I compare him with guys like John Collins that are going to cancel out his field goal percentage, and I can still stack their threes, still stack their points and their high free throw percentage. So I want to stack the things that are comparable. I don't want to mismatch things that don't fit well in the overall scheme of my build. Nikola Vuchovic is somebody else who I think is underrated. He's going at an average pick of 16, so the respect for him has gone up. But this is a guy that had shown he could put up top 10 production. He's on the Chicago Bulls team where he's going to be pretty much part of that 2-headed monster with him and Zach LaVine. Now they have Lonzo Ball, who's going to help him tremendously. I think he's going to have a great season. He doesn't hurt you in any particular area. He's not really a shot blocker for a big man. So if you draft him, he works well with someone like Nikola Jokic. And you might say, I'm just going to pump blocks and then focus on having these bigs that help my percentages. Because his field goal percentage isn't great, but it's also not bad. And he hit 2.5 3-pointers per game. So 47% for a big that's giving you that many threes per game. And this is a guy who never used to hit threes. So he added this wrinkle to his game and his value has increased significantly. Big fan of his. If you're drafting around 16, I'd pick him as high, I'd say as 14. You probably have better options before that. even then, he probably will prove me wrong and end up having a top 5 season. He has that sort of potential. So someone that's being slept on is Deandre Ayton. Average pick of 29.6. Yahoo has him projected at 15. So last season he had 14.4 points, 10.5 rebounds. Not a guy you get for assists, not a guy you get for threes or steals. 1.2 blocks. I'll take it. It's not the best for a big man when you're not giving me threes, but I will take it. Turnovers low, field goal percentage really high, free throw percentage average. For a big man, it's pretty good. I wish he gave me more threes, but still, he gives you solid, steady double-double production. And if you value rebounds and you value your field goal percentage and you want to be able to have blocks and keep your turnovers low, while also not hurting your free throw percentage, he's somebody to highly consider. He's going at an average pick of 29.6, and I think he has the potential to have a top 25, top 20 performance. So he is somebody that, in my opinion, is undervalued, and you might want to target in your drafts when you're drafting around that 25 spot. Jimmy Butler is somebody similar to Paul George. They tend to get underrated. Now, Jimmy Butler is a bit injury prone. He missed a lot of time last season with a mix of ankle injuries, corona, COVID, and other things. And I hope the YouTube algorithm doesn't punish me for that. Speaking of the YouTube algorithm, make sure you're smashing that like button for me if you haven't yet. But Jimmy Butler had a great season, over 7 assists, almost 7 rebounds per game. The assists, love to see that. Over 2 steals per game, one of the best ball thieves in the entire league. Not really a shot blocker, and considering he's getting you over 7 assists to 2.1 turnovers, that's a really good ratio. So field goal percentage, very, very good. Free throw percentage, very, very good. He does have Kyle Lowry now, but I mean, what they're doing in Miami is built around Jimmy Butler. So with an average pick at 20, if I'm in a deep league and I'm 20, chances are I'm going to go with Jimmy Butler. I've told you guys for years to draft Tobias Harris, and his ADP it stays around that 40 range, and I don't get it. He keeps outproducing that. And now Ben Simmons might not be a factor anymore, which means more usage for him, which means more opportunities for him to score. He's super efficient. We're talking about a guy that hits over a 3 per game, but still gets you over 50% field goal, almost 90% free throw, low turnovers, close to a steal, close to a block. You know, it's not getting you one of either one, but close to one of each. I will take that when you're not hurting me in any other area. So if you look, he's really contributing in every single category for you, and that's what brings him his value. But at the same time, people avoid him because he doesn't have a flashy stat in any of these. None of these are flashy. You look at 19.5 individually and you'll think there's better scorers, there's better rebounders, there's better assist guys, there's better 3-point guys. But it's rare to find a player that just has this well balanced of a stat line, especially in 9-cat. So strongly want to consider drafting him. I'd draft him as soon as 35, possibly. I'd say as soon as 35, only because people are going to sleep on Tobias Harris. LaMelo Ball is projected at 22. He has an average pick of 26, which I'm surprised. I thought he'd have a bigger jump than that. I remember Trae Young and Luka, their jump from year 1 to year 2 was pretty severe. And I think LaMelo Ball can have a very similar jump to what we saw with Trae Young. I would pick him as soon as the second round. So yeah, with my second pick, I would pick him. I wouldn't pick him in the first round, but I think I would pick him in the second round. I love his upside. I love his ability to rebound and get assists. He's a wizard out there with the ball. I anticipate his percentages will increase. We should see an uptick in his assist. They got rid of Graham. Graham's over there with the New Orleans Pelicans now, so that's one less factor, taking the ball out of his hands. I anticipate a great season for him. Almost 2 3-pointers per game, 1.6 steals per game as a rookie. Really love the combination of things he provides. I am still ashamed I told you not to draft him last year. I was so wrong about him, but I am not too proud to admit I was wrong. Somebody I am proud to have told you to draft was Tyrese Halliburton, okay? Tyrese Halliburton had an amazing season, helped your percentages, helped you just across the board. Didn't really help you with rebounding much, but outside of that, just contribute in almost every single category, over 5 assists per game, and did so at only 1.6 turnovers. That bodes really well for his future in helping your fantasy basketball team. When you're already getting 5 assists and only 1.6 turnovers, those are Chris Paul assist turnover ratio type numbers, and that was always one of my favorite numbers, assist to turnover ratios, to determine point guards I wanted on my team, because I value, even if I punt assist, I still like guys that keep my turnovers low, and if they manage to get assists too, I just take that as a bonus. Mikael Porter Jr., I have him here because he's projected to be in the top 25. The average pick right now is 32, and I think we're going to see a big leap from him. Already hit almost 3 3-pointers per game, 19 points, 7.3 rebounds. If you look here, the production reminds me a lot of what you get from Tobias Harris. High field goal percentage, even though he's getting you almost 3 3-pointers per game. That is a hard combination to find. The free throw percentage, he can improve there, but I anticipate that we will see him improve there. I like him a lot, so if you're drafting at 30, I think Mikael Porter Jr. makes a lot of sense. Dejante Murray, he has an average pick of 52.4. He's projected to be in the top 28. I really like Dejante Murray. He can get you steals. He chips in a little bit across the board. The percentages are average. They're not great, but they're average. He's not hurting you there. And I just like his ability to get steals. And I think he's going to take a big leap. He's still a young player. I don't think we've seen the best out of him. So I draft him anticipating a much better performance than the 52.4 he's going at right now. Bam Adebayo is projected to be in the top 10, and he's going at an average pick of about 21. So if I'm around that 21 range, Bam Adebayo is one of my favorite big men. I would pick right around there. Why do I like Bam? I like the idea of pairing Bam with Nikola Vuchovic, 2 big men that can get you assists, can score for you, get you a lot of rebounds. Now, Bam is not going to help your threes, but honestly, there's enough 3-point specialists that as long as you don't stack a bunch of guys that don't get threes, you can afford to have someone like Bam not hit threes, or someone like Deandre Ayton who doesn't hit threes. Really, what you're getting out of Bam is those assists. And when you draft with Nikola Vuchovic, Bam Adebayo is somebody you definitely want to target, because you want to protect those assist numbers if you're picking Vuchovic. If you don't care for assists, Vuchovic doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because what brings him so much value is that he's a center that gets those out of position assists. Bam is the same situation, and at that ADP of 20.8, very attractive pickup. Mikael Bridges is projected to be in the top 26 and is going at an average pick of 61.3. I think he's still criminally underrated, and just like Deandre Ayton, this guy just made it to the finals, so they have veteran experience now. These aren't young guys anymore. Yes, they're young, but they are experienced. They just went pretty much as far as you can go and not win a championship. And normally guys that have that experience tend to come back hungrier. They tend to improve. And I'm banking on someone like Mikael Bridges having a great season. I love that he gives you a ton of threes. He gets you steals. He gets you almost a block per game. So you're getting close to a steal, close to a block, almost 2 3-pointers per game. It used to be attractive to have guys that hit 1 3, 1 steal, 1 block. Here we have a guy 2 threes, 1 steal, essentially 1 block, under a turnover per game. Okay, still gets you 2 assists, elite percentages. What is he not helping you in? The only thing you could maybe claim he's not helping you with is your assists. And even then, that's why I like to punt assists, because then someone like Mikael Bridges is essentially perfect. 0.8 turnovers. Come on, this is elite fantasy production right here. That is a glue guy that helps almost any build that you're making. You can slot him right in, and he helps solidify your build. Love what he brings to the table. Jrue Holiday, projected to be in the top 31, average pick of 41.8. He had an amazing season last season, was a great fit with the Bucks, and now he is an NBA champion. So I predict we're going to see probably a comparable season of what he did last year. I think at this point in his career, he's not going to take big leaps as far as his production, but I think we can expect similar production of what he did last year. We're still going to get steals. We're still going to get threes. We're still going to get a nice field goal percentage from him. We're still going to get really nice production from him. CJ McCollum has an average pick of 50.8. He's projected to go in the to be top 32. And he had an amazing season. Now, his value's being hurt by the fact he missed a lot of the season last year with an injury. But when he did play, he was like a mini Steph Curry. He was scoring. He was hitting a ton of threes. He's doing it on really nice percentages. I'm a big fan of CJ McCollum. And if I'm picking around 50, I'm picking him as a sleeper because I think he can have top 25 production if he can stay healthy. OG Anunoby, average pick of 52, projected to be top 34. And I like OG Anunoby, high field goal percentage, while giving you a lot of threes, gives you a lot of steals, gets you 0.7 blocks. Wish the blocks were higher, and I think we could see that higher. Very dynamic player, still young, still developing. We could see a leap from him. And if we saw higher blocks numbers, let's say, probably not going to see higher scoring. I don't think he'll ever be a 20-point per game scorer. Who knows? But I think we could see higher steals numbers, higher block numbers. I think we could see him improve that free throw percentage. I can see him definitely beating that average pick of 52. So I'm going to put him down as a sleeper. Rashaan Holmes, average pick of 45.9, projected to be in the top 36. And I think he's a great target. If he drops to you like at 50, he makes a whole lot of sense. Look how he helps your percentages, 79% for a big man. That's pretty decent. 1.6 blocks. Not a guy that gets you threes, but he's going to score decently. He's going to rebound for you, and he works well with punt assist builds that I like when he's helping my percentages and getting me blocks. I value that a lot, and he's keeping the turnovers low. You guys know about my boy Rocco. Of course, I had to bring up Robert Covington. He struggled to begin the season last year and almost tanked all credibility I had as a fantasy basketball content creator. But thankfully, he turned it around and ended up having a strong season. Yahoo has him projected top 38. He's going at an average pick of 80 now. I have to tell you to draft him at an average pick of 80, and he's projected top 38. He's going to be able to do mostly what he did last season. Now, they did add Larry Nance Jr. to the mix. That could impact his playing time and his production. But you're already accounting for that with that ADP of 80.4. If I get him at 85 for a guy that can get me 3 steals, blocks, who have I shown you so far that has this combination of 3 steals and blocks? Under 1 turnover. Good free throw percentage. The field goal percentage, not a thing he's going to help me with. The points, not something he helps me with. The assist, not something he helps me with. And again, this is why I promote punching assists. But the rebounds, 6.7, I'll take it. He's helping me there. Helps you in a lot of different categories. That's why his projection is so high. Definitely some question marks, but if I'm drafting him around 80 and I think he can have a top 60 season, I would say he's a sleeper. Norman Powell has an average pick of 90.4, and he's projected to be in the top 43 by Yahoo. He's on a Blazers team where he did really well when he was traded over there. He has the opportunity to score, not an assist guy, hits a lot of threes. We saw him improve in the steals department. Turnovers, not great relative to his assists, but still 1.7 turnovers is not something that you're going to complain about. The percentages, field goal percentage, slightly above average. Free throw percentage, really good free throw percentage. So considering he's being drafted at 90.4, definitely think he can beat that. He makes a whole lot of sense if we could get him around 70 or 80 and even beat that ADP, because still, even at that, even picking him at 70 or 80, he's being projected top 43. There's plenty of upside for you. Jarrett Allen. Look at this. Projected top 44, average pick of 64. If Jarrett Allen is available around, I'd say after 50, I'm going to have a hard time not picking him up. I picked him in my first mock draft, and why is that? All right, it's simple. Double-double, getting me blocks, field goal percentage really good, turnovers relatively low, and free throw percentage not great, but he helps me in so many other areas, and he has the possibility of improving there. He's not getting me threes, but still, he's a young guy on a team that just paid him, and the issue he's had in the past, he was competing with people like DeAndre Jordan for minutes. That is no longer the case. Evan Mobley, he might have to compete a little bit, but really, they're going to make him their big man. You don't pay a guy like that and then not play him. They're going to play him. So this might be his best season yet. So I'm banking on that upside. So if he falls to me at 64, I'm absolutely picking him. Colin Sexton has become a little bit, I think he's a little bit underrated. I'm going to be honest. He's projected to be in the top 51. Average pick is 66.6. Last season, over 24 points per game, 3 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 1.6 threes. He got you a steal per game, and his percentages are really good. So and 2.8 turnovers per game, that's not really bad. Those are, if he had 1.5 steals per game, or he bumped those threes up to 2, you're talking about a guy who's probably getting picked in the second round at worst. He's still young. He's improving. He's improved every single season, and he has become a better fantasy basketball player. So he's a huge sleeper, in my opinion. If you could get him around 66, that's a huge get for your team, especially if you do value his scoring and you do value what he brings to the table. Man, I got a long list. We're going to be talking here for a while, guys, so get ready. But this video should prepare you. I could do a bunch of different mocks, but by identifying the guys and letting you know what they can do when you're in the draft, you just go through and add them to your list and just figure out your strategy, figure out your build. You should be able to watch this video, and hopefully it's incredibly useful for you without having to sit through a bunch of different mock drafts. So Robert Williams, why do I like him? Not a big difference between his average pick and where he's projected to go, but I think he can beat even these projections. Elite shot blocker, got close to a steal per game, elite field goal percentage, low turnovers. This might be the first season where we see him get a boatload of minutes. Now, we've seen him struggle when he gets a lot of minutes. We've seen him struggle with health, and we've seen him struggle with just some mental lapses. But overall, he is an elite shot blocker. Reminds me a lot of Mitchell Robinson, what Mitchell Robinson was bringing to the table. And Mitchell Robinson at some point was going in the second round. So Robert Williams has the same type of potential. They put a very similar production. So Robert Williams, if you get to pick him at 60.8, I think it makes a whole lot of sense for you. Lonzo Ball is going at an average pick of 51.7. And I debated if to add him here or not, because honestly, that's probably where he's going to end up. I think this one's pretty accurate, but still, I like his upside on that Chicago Bulls team. I like that he's going to be their starting point guard. Chicago paid him. They want him to have the ball in his hands, and they have a lot of good pieces around that I think are a really good fit for him. So I wouldn't be surprised. I love his ability to get steals. If he gets those block numbers up and he manages to get those assist numbers up and improve his percentages, which is a possibility, just getting these percentages closer to 80 and his field goal percentage closer to average would help his value tremendously. And if he gets closer to 2 steals per game, which I think he can do, and he maintains the 3-point production, 3 3-pointers per game for a guy getting you 1.5 steals, I love that combination. Kelton Johnson's going at an average pick of 102.4. He's projected to be top 62. We saw him have a great season last season. DeMar DeRozan is gone. There's no more LaMarcus Aldridge in San Antonio, which means we might see a huge leap from this young man and a lot of opportunity for him. So at an average pick of 102.4, strongly consider him. PJ Washington, I'm a very big fan of his game. I don't like he lost a small forward eligibility. That used to be a nice little bonus when you picked him, but still, this is a guy that hit almost 2 3-pointers per game, 1.1 steals, 1.2 blocks. Reminds me a lot of that production I told you Robert Covington has, except he has better field goal percentage, but worse free throw percentage. So overall, he has an average pick of 86. I'm definitely picking PJ Washington if he's falling to me around 86. I'd pick him up as early as 75, honestly. I love that combination of stats, especially if I can pair him with some of the other guys I've told you about. Jeremy Grant. So Jeremy Grant's being picked where he's actually being projected. Jeremy Grant hurt his value. I mean, he helped it a lot, but he hurt his field goal percentage and he helped his free throw percentage. I think he can improve in certain areas and really improve his value. So the threes I love. We used to get more blocks from him. I would love to see him get more blocks. That would help his value. The field goal percentage, if we saw that creep up closer to average, that would help his value as well. I really like his upside. I did not expect the leap he took last year. I always liked him as a Mikael Bridges type utility player, but the leap he took in Detroit was very impressive, and I think he can take another, not as big of a leap, but I think he could take a significant leap where there's upside in picking him in the top 66. This one I debated, but ultimately I ended up adding Brook Lopez. My concern is he's aging, he's getting old, he's getting long in the tooth, and he just played a really long season, and he did end up playing a lot of minutes in the playoffs. He has a history of foot problems, so he's an aging 7-footer with foot problems. But at an average pick of 90, he's projected to be top 71. Last year, we saw him really improve his field goal percentage, really improve his free throw percentage. 1.5 blocks per game, 1.4 threes per game. Just really decent production across the board, especially if you are punching assists, which I tend to do. Really low turnovers. My main concerns, again, is his age. But as long as he produces like he did last season, if you're picking him up at 90, I think he has the potential of being the top 60 guy. Again, my concerns with him are his age. Now, Nerlens Noel, I have him on this list. He has an average pick of almost 119. He is 93% drafted. Yahoo has him projected in the top 75. So for a guy you can get at almost 120, I think Nerlens Noel's perfect in a situation where you want his boost to steals and his huge boost to blocks. You want someone who's going to help your field goal percentage while not really hurting your free throw percentage all that much. They're not going to help it, but they're not going to hurt it all that much. You're punching assist. You're seeing that trend. You see the players I like are low assist guys. That's why I punt assist. They're also low turnover guys. That's why I protect my turnovers. I hope you're following me. He's not a guy I'm adding for his points, but I do like the boost to my rebounds. Again, really what sticks out is right here. 1.1 steals, 2.2 blocks, high field goal, keeping my turnovers low. That is his bread and butter. I don't care if he never scores 10 points per game. I don't care if he never gets over an assist per game. I would love some threes. Some threes would help. That's really what ends up hurting him more than anything, that he doesn't help you with points, assists, or threes in any real capacity, okay? If he were better at free throws or got this, I'll take even 0.5. Probably not going to happen. So you pick him up really because you want that boost to your steals and blocks. Justin Holiday, on the other hand, you pick him up because he does get you a sprinkle of steals and blocks. Not Nerlens Noel's type, but you're going to get 2.4 3-pointers per game. The field goal percentage and free throw percentage leave some to be desired. But at an average pick of 131, this guy, I see him get underrated every single year, and every single year he ends up beating expectations. If you want 3-pointers, if you pick up somebody like Nerlens Noel, it makes a whole lot of sense to pick somebody like Justin Holiday later on, because you could stack the little bit of steals and blocks you're getting from him. You're still keeping your turnovers low. You're getting the boost from Nerlens Noel field goal percentage, and you're canceling out some of Nerlens Noel damage with the lack of threes. Again, no assist. We don't care there. I think they complement each other very well. Malcolm Brogdon, projected at 76, average pick of 57. I think that's being a little harsh on him. Malcolm Brogdon had a really good season for the majority of the season. There was a large part of the season he was in the top 20. He did not end up in the top 20, but I think he can end up higher than 57. We saw him take a leap I wasn't expecting from him either, as a scorer, just as a leader of a team. I always thought him more of a role player, but he took a really big leap. I'm excited to see what he does next season. Not a guy I ever expect many steals from. Turnovers, 2.1 when you're getting almost 6 assists is pretty nice. The guy scored over 20 points per game. The field goal percentage was average, but he had really good free throw percentage. That combination of stats, I think picking at 57, I'd be really comfortable with that. Jordan Clarkson has an average pick of 97, projected in the top 78, and I think Jordan Clarkson's going to beat that 97. If you get him around then, it makes a whole lot of sense if you're punting assists and you need the threes. Gets you close to a steal per game, barely any blocks, turnovers relatively low, really high free throw percentage, field goal percentage is low, but I really like him, especially as a punt assist point guard. If you need his scoring, if you need the big boost in threes, and then he makes a whole lot of sense around that ADP he's going for. Isaiah Stewart has an average pick of 74. He's projected in the top 84, but I honestly think Beef Stew, as he's come to be known, he can beat that 74. I'm banking on it, actually. I think he's going to get the playing time. I think we're going to see him improve his free throw percentage a little bit. And I think we could see more blocks and rebounds from him. So I'd be comfortable picking him around that 74, just banking on the upside. There's probably safer options, but I really like his upside as a young player on a team that's going to give him a lot of opportunity. Monte Morris, projected top 89, has an average pick of 137.5, and Monte Morris makes a whole lot of sense because there's still huge question marks around Jamal Murray's status for the season. He's doubtful to play this season, last I checked, so he's a guy that really helps your field goal percentage, chips in a little bit across the board. He's a low-end point guard. I'd want him as a 4th point guard. If he's your 3rd point guard, maybe you're in bad shape, but as a 4th point guard, I'm okay with Monte Morris, especially with an average pick of 137.5. He's a guy you could probably get with your very last pick. There is some upside there. Gary Trent Jr. has an average pick of 125, projected in the top 90, and he's one of my favorite sleepers. Lots of threes. The percentages, steals and blocks leave a lot to be desired, but if you need just a guy who's going to go out there, hit a ton of 3-pointers, is going to blow up on occasion and have 7 or 8 3-pointers per night, and sometimes do it 2 or 3 games in a row, I think Gary Trent Jr. is one of those players, and I think we're going to see even a bigger leap from him. Field goal percentage is probably going to stay low. Hopefully we get to see more steals from him. That would help his value. And like I punt assist, so again, he fits very well with the team I'd put together, and very low turnovers. I like that as well. So Gary Trent Jr., especially if you want the ability to hit 3-pointers and you think you're towards the end of your draft and you're just not where you want to be, it makes a whole lot of sense to look at someone like Gary Trent. Jae'Sean Tate has an average pick of 127.9, projected top 92, and we saw him have a really strong end of the season last season. He's on a rebuilding team that's going to give him a lot of opportunity to play, and I think he's definitely going to beat a 127.9 ADP. So I would recommend drafting him with one of your last picks. The strengths you're going to get from him, really, I don't think we even know what we're going to get from him. I think we're going to see he's going to take a big leap. So these numbers we're seeing here are not going to properly reflect what he's going to do. I think we're going to see more steals. I think we're going to see a slight increase to the free throw percentage. We're going to see more points per game, probably a hit to the field goal percentage, but I also think we'll see more 3-pointers per game. I think he's a dynamic player, and I'm excited to see what he does. Ibika Zubach has an average pick of 118.2. He's projected to be in the top 80. Why do I like Ibika Zubach? Really, he's a boring get, but really high field goal percentage. For a big man, decent free throw percentage, close to a block per game. He had a little bit over a turnover per game. Got you over 7 rebounds. Serge Ibaka is having back issues. The Clippers, no. DeAndre Jordan went with the Lakers. So yeah, DeAndre Jordan's not on the Clippers. So really, Ibika Zubach is probably going to have a handful of minutes. And he was still a young player, so we could see a leap there. Who knows? We might see some Marc Gasol, younger Marc Gasol-like production from him, especially if he adds three-pointers to his game at some point. If he adds threes to his game, that would increase his value significantly. So Ibika Zubach is somebody I would definitely consider drafting if I need a fourth big and I'm around that 115 part of the draft. I would definitely pick Ibika Zubach. Kevin Huerter, big fan of his, average pick of 137.8. I think he's criminally underrated. His percentages left some to be desired, but I think we're going to see more assists from him. We got 2 3-pointers from him. We got over a steal from him. Low turnovers considering the 3.5 assists. And I think we're going to see him have better scoring than this. I think he could be a 14, 15 point per game guy. He had a great performance in the playoffs. And at an average pick of 137.8, Kevin Huerter is somebody I'd be very comfortable with picking with my last spot if I'm banking on a lottery ticket. Luguentz Dort, average pick of 138.1, projected to be in the top 100. And what gives him value? He had a lot of three-pointers. His percentages were bad, but he had a lot of three-pointers. He got some steals, got you close to half a block per game. He's still a young player. He's still on a rebuilding team that's probably going to give him a lot of usage and opportunity to play. And a young player with opportunity to play means value for your fantasy team, especially at an average pick of 138.1. Even if you don't end up drafting him, he's somebody I would keep an eye on. He seems like one of those players like Justin Holiday that you pick up and drop based on them going hot and just having a bunch of threes and steals and blocks. Then they go cold, you drop them, and then you pick them up later. He's starting to remind me of a Justin Holiday, with more upside, of course. Larry Nance Jr., I mentioned him before. Average pick of 126.8. Very curious to see how his role impacts Robert Covington. But last season, we saw him get over 3 assists per game, hit over a 3 per game, 1.7 steals, half a block per game, 1.6 turnovers. Really good production. If he had a higher free throw percentage, his value would have been much higher. So I don't know exactly where he's going to fit in on that Blazers team. My guess is he's going to slot into the minutes Carmelo Anthony was getting, and Robert Covington won't be too impacted because Robert Covington can play small forward. So at an average pick of 126.8, I think Larry Nance is an intriguing option. Josh Hart, average pick of 138.1, only 13% drafted. Lonzo Ball is gone, and this is a guy that's shooting guard eligible and gets 8 rebounds per game, over a 3 per game, close to a steal per game. The percentages aren't great, but he's keeping the turnovers low. So Josh Hart, again, maybe in a 14-team league. You probably won't draft him in a 12-team league, but I won't be surprised if you end up picking him up off the waiver wire. At the very least, keep an eye on him. Oh man, we have so many other players to discuss. I might have to make a separate deep league sleepers video because this is getting ridiculous, guys. We're at 45 minutes and there's so many other players for us to discuss. So we might have to put a stop to this soon. Kelly Olynyk, great upside for Kelly Olynyk. And he's on a Detroit Pistons team where he's projected to be in the top 83, average pick of 101.8 for a big man that hits threes, rebounds, got over a steal per game, and had really good percentages. I think we might see an even bigger leap from Kelly Olynyk. He makes a whole lot of sense around, I'd pick him up as early as 90 because I think he's going to get playing time and I think he's going to have the opportunity to produce. Terrence Ross, I'm not the biggest fan of his, but he's projected 101, average pick of 143. He's really a guy you're targeting if you could take the hit to your field goal percentage and you want his steals and three-point making ability. Duncan Robinson, average pick of 114, projected at 105. Elite three-pointers. Not as good of a field goal percentage as Joe Harris, but better free throw percentage. He's somebody you can pair with a Joe Harris at the end of the draft and give you a huge boost to threes if you made sure you took care of all the other areas. Mikael Bridges, average pick of 92, projected at 107, but I think the projections are wrong. I think he's going to beat that projection. I think he's going to take a leap. He's going to get minutes. We saw him be a huge, he worked great with LaMelo Ball. They were a great pairing, and I think we're going to see more of that pairing develop together. And if we get that steal and block closer to 1, the percentages are already nice, and we're already getting over almost 2 3-pointers per game. I think we're really close to Miles Bridges being one of those top 75 type of guys, so I consider him a sleeper. Danny Green has some sleeper appeal. You could pick him with your last pick. Last season, he averaged 2.5 threes, 1.3 steals, almost a block per game, low turnovers, low assist, punt assist build. Danny Green, very, very alluring if you want a boost in those categories. Matisse Thybulle, I call him Nerlens Noel as a shooting guard. Essentially, you're picking him for the same thing. They're not going to, you might get a little more threes from Matisse. That's the difference. But you're going to get blocks. You're going to get steals, low turnovers. He's not going to help your percentages. Hopefully, we see an improvement to his percentages. But he's essentially somebody you send out there to get you steals and blocks. And hopefully a trickle of threes. And you ignore everything else. He's probably better as a streamer when you want that extra boost. But if you have a really stacked team where you can afford the hit to practically every category that is in steals, blocks, then he makes sense. Nicholas Batum, average pick of 141, projected to be 119. Kawhi Leonard is injured, and we saw him have a career resurgence on that Clippers team. I don't see any reason why he can't at least put up the production he had last season, if not better. So at an average pick of 140, I think that's a little low for him. So I think he's a sleeper. He's somebody that can help your team and chip in across the board. Tim Hardaway Jr. Hit 3 3-pointers per game, average pick of 126. He did get re-signed. Doesn't get a lot of steals. The turnovers were pretty low. Considering how many threes he hit, I'll take the 44% field goal. Free throw, I wish it could be a little bit higher. Overall, he's a guy you're picking up because you want the blocks. You want the points and you want the threes. Kind of like Terrence Ross. They are both very similar players in what they're going to give you. Terrence Ross gives you more steals, and you're going to get more threes from Tim Hardaway Jr. All right, so we're getting close to an hour, and I don't want to go beyond an hour, so I'm probably going to start going a little faster here. Patrick Williams on the Bulls, average pick of 129, still a young player. We saw he could hit threes, we saw he can get steals, and we saw that he could get blocks. He had a high field goal percentage, and he could have a leap. That upside makes him worth a flyer. Joe Harris, average pick of 137, despite having a really strong season last season. Really high field goal percentage, over 3 3-pointers per game. High punts assist, he only had 1.9. Not a steals and blocks, guys, but he keeps the turnovers low. You see why I like him. And Kyrie Irving might not play this season from what it's looking like. So if he doesn't play, Joe Harris is going to have a leap in responsibility. And for a guy that hits that many threes and still averages over 50% field goal, I love that combination. Joe Harris is going to be on a lot of my teams. Devon Vasel, I needed to throw him there. I don't know how much opportunity he's going to have, but he's shown some impressive flashes. Okay, he's shown some really impressive flashes of potential. So he's somebody I would keep an eye on the waiver wire at the very least. And if I'm seeing that he's getting 20-25 minutes consistently on that Spurs team, I'm going to pick him up because he's shown he can be a dynamic ball thief, that he can do. He's a jackknife of all trades. We've seen it before in limited spurts. I have really good feelings about his upside and what he'll do this season. Wendell Carter Jr. has an average pick of 104.9, projected at 130. I think the projections are probably being harsher on him than I'm being. I think we've seen his upside in the past. I know he's dealt with some injury concerns, but if we can get him to be a 1.5 blocks per game guy, I think we've seen that blocking potential from him even in his rookie season. He's just dealt with some injury concerns. I don't think he's found his stride. I don't think he's fully matured, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see him have a 15-10 season in the next season or two with over a block per game. I think he has that sort of potential, and who knows if we see him get more 3-pointers per game. It's a big question mark what his exact role is going to be on that Orlando Magic team that also has Mo Bamba. They have Okiki. They have Jonathan Isaac. But overall, I think they traded away Nikola Vuchovic and brought back Wendell Carter Jr. for a reason. and that's because they value him. And if they value him, he's going to get playing time. Cameron Johnson. Now we're getting more into guys you're going to pick probably in 14-team leagues or deeper. So if you want to abandon this video, if you don't play deeper leagues, go right ahead. Just make sure you like it before you do. If you are interested in deeper leagues, then just watch for a little bit longer. All right, so Cameron Johnson, a guy I'm picking up for his threes, high free throw percentage, doesn't really do much else. So more of a 3-point specialist that has upside for improvement, because like I said, that Suns went to the finals, so that's experience that he now has as a basketball player. Malik Beasley, average pick of 131, very similar to Jordan Clarkson. You're going to get scoring, you're going to get a lot of threes, you're going to get questionable to average field goal percentage and really good free throw percentage. So a guy that hit almost 20 points per game last season. And D'Angelo Russell, in my opinion, is injury prone. Ricky Rubio is gone. Anthony Edwards is a factor. But I like Malik Beasley, especially if you're picking him at 130. I think the upside is worth it. I was picking him around that last year where he had a suspension looming over his head. That's not looming over his head anymore. So I like it a lot. Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole has been killing it in preseason. And it looks like he's going to get a lot of minutes while Klay Thompson is gone. So Jordan Poole is someone to consider at the very end of your draft if you need a point guard eligible player who's going to hit some threes, has some scoring potential. I don't think he's going to help you much. Steals, blocks, percentages, free throw percentage will help you. Field goal percentage will be questionable. I honestly think I prefer Talen Horton-Tucker. So Horton-Tucker, that Lakers team is really strapped. They traded for Russell Westbrook. They don't have a lot of talent. They have a bunch of vet minimum players. Talen Horton-Tucker is very young. We've seen his potential in the past. Really, I don't see how he isn't forced to step up and get significant production. So, at an average pick of 137.9, yeah, Russell Westbrook is a ball leader, but I don't think Talen Horton-Tucker has shown he doesn't need the ball to be effective. I think he can be a player that's going to find a role on that team that's so strapped for talent outside of Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Russell Westbrook. So only 5% drafted. Talen Horton-Tucker, somebody to definitely keep an eye on. Maxie Cleaver, keep an eye on him. I'm not as high on him as I've been in the past, but he is a guy that can get 3-pointers and blocks. So in a deeper format, it makes sense to keep Maxie Cleaver in mind if he's available. Deandre Hunter, average pick of 123.5. His projection's really low, but Deandre Hunter, when he was healthy last season, was performing at a top 60 level. He has dealt with injuries since then, and I think he's being punished because of that. So with that in mind, I think at an average pick of 123.5, Deandre Hunter is somebody you should consider. Isaiah Roby, in a deeper format, on an Oklahoma City Thunder team that got rid of Al Horford and is developing young talent. They got rid of Moses Brown as well. Isaiah Roby is going to have some playing time, and he's a low-end big, especially in a deeper format. Average pick of 147. Makes some sense to consider him in that situation. Dante De Vichenzo is questionable to start the season. In the past, I've liked him because he's a guy that got you 2 3-pointers, got you over a steal. The percentages were suspect, but he just chipped in several different areas, so I was willing to stomach it. He makes sense in a deeper format if you want someone who has that potential to hit threes and steals while still chipping in other areas. Jonathan Isaac has been injury prone for his career, but has shown a bunch of potential. He's shown the potential to hit threes, get a lot of steals, lots of blocks, to score, to get rebounds. He's shown the potential to be a dynamic player. He's long, he's talented. There are some question marks about his playing status in cities or in areas that are going to require, the backs. But other than that, he has a lot of upside. Average pick of 116. You could do a whole lot worse. It's a bit of a lottery ticket, but if that lottery ticket hits, you're not going to regret picking him at round 116. TJ McConnell's starting to get some more respect. I've always promoted TJ McConnell as someone that really helps your assist in steals. That's really all he does. But he does it at such a high level that's elite production. Like 1.9 steals is like a guy that scores 20 points per game for that category. But because it wasn't flashy production, people tended to ignore him. But he helped a lot of teams to success last season. I know I had him on a couple championship teams. So TJ McConnell at an average pick of 129. If you need a boost to your assist and your steals numbers, he makes a whole lot of sense, as long as you know he's not really going to do much outside of those categories. Tyler Hero, hearing good things out of him in Miami. His value was fever red after the bubble, and then that bubble burst and his value burst as well. But now at an average pick of 125, you could bank on some of that upside. There are a lot of mouths to feed on that Miami Heat team. You got Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, so there might not be enough left on the plate for him. But at an average pick of 125, we've seen his flashes before. He's incredibly skilled. Who knows if he takes a leap. Dennis Schrader is with the Boston Celtics. He fumbled the bag, as he himself has joked. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here if he can help your fantasy basketball team, which I think he can. I think he helps you in several areas. He hurts you in your field goal percentage. The steals and the threes leave some to be desired. The steals over 1 is fine. Almost three turnovers per game. He's an okay player. He's not, I think his production seems flashier than it actually is. He's still an okay get if you can get him later in the draft, or if you feel that he has potential to take a leap from what we saw last year. He goes on spurts where he really has really nice production, and then he goes on spurts where he struggles. So it remains to be seen. De'Anthony Melton, I like his ability to get 3 steals, and when he's gotten the playing time, he's produced. He's a per minute monster, but he doesn't always get the playing time. So that's the big question mark with him. I'd keep an eye on him. If he secures a role getting 25 plus minutes per game, I definitely want him on my team. Average pick of 147.8 means he'll be available in some deeper formats. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, average pick of 113. I don't know if I can justify picking him at 113, but keep in mind Eric Bledsoe is gone, Lonzo Ball is gone, and we saw last year when they weren't playing, he had the ball in his hands and we saw him produce. So he could take a big leap. He probably will end up around that 113, but I at least wanted to bring up his potential and upside. Reggie Bullock is with the Dallas Mavericks, and Reggie Bullock is a guy that tends to be like a Justin Holiday. He plays himself into minutes, hits a lot of 3-pointers, and then helps your team. I think he can do that with the Dallas Mavericks. He's 0% owned, so not even being drafted at all. So in your very deep formats, he's someone to keep in mind. Tyrese Maxey, average pick of 140. If Ben Simmons is gone, Tyrese Maxey might be the main beneficiary. Shake Milton might benefit as well. Seth Curry might benefit as well. But I think the main beneficiary is going to be Tyrese Maxey. Al Horford, average pick of 116. He's back on the Celtics team. That is saying they're not going to sit him back-to-backs. That really hurt his value last year. If he's playing, I think at 116, he's worth the gamble. He is an older player like a Brook Lopez, and he can get assists. He can contribute across the board. And he's going back to a system that he liked, a team that he liked, and is actually a good fit with that team. Davis Bertans, average pick of 140, only 17% drafted. Hit 3 3-pointers per game last season. That Washington Wizards team, I really need to see how everything ends up shaking out. There's a lot of question marks there. But you should at least have him as on your radar, because power forward center eligible players that hit 3 3-pointers per game don't grow on trees. And if he's getting playing time, he could really help you perform. Speaking of that Washington Wizards team, Montrezl Harrell, average pick of 124.5. Makes a whole lot of sense if you're ignoring free throw percentage. Really, what you get from him, you're going to get a handful of points, you're going to get a handful of rebounds, and you're going to get low turnovers and high field goal percentage in limited minutes. That's really the appeal there. I think he's ideal as a 4th big. He's a great 4th big. And if you're desperate, maybe your 3rd big. Reggie Jackson, we saw him have a really strong season in the playoffs last year, and Kawhi Leonard is injured. He got signed. He's going to have the ball in his hands. Even with the ball in his hands, his production leaves a lot to be desired. But if you're desperate for a point guard in a deeper format, he's probably not going to fall beyond that 130. But if you're desperate for a point guard and you think he might meet those needs, then go for it. All right, we're going to do a few more while we're at it. Josh Richardson is with the Boston Celtics, not only 2% drafted. I'd have to see what his role is. There are a lot of mouths to feed there, but we've seen him in the past be able to get you threes, steals, contribute some assists, contribute some points. They value him. They traded for him. We'll see what his role ends up being. But with an average pick of 141 and only 2% drafted, he makes sense in those deeper formats. Emmanuel Quickley, only 4% drafted. They did sign Evan Fournier, and they also have Kemba Walker now, but Kemba Walker's knee is shot. Emmanuel Quickley makes a lot of sense as a handcuff to Kemba Walker, or just a deeper format where you're banking on Kemba Walker missing time. You could draft Emmanuel Quickley while his value's so low, because he was someone who would jump off the waiver wire because he dropped 20 points with 7 assists. Desmond Bain, he is like the main competition for minutes with DeAnthony Melton. And we're seeing him get significant playing time in preseason as well. Only 10% drafted. He's somebody to keep an eye on. Otto Porter Jr. used to be a guy you drafted in the top 30, 40, 50, and he got injured. But now he's on the Golden State Warriors team playing with Steph Curry, where I feel that his skill set is a really nice fit on that Warriors team. He's probably healthier than he's been in a long time, and I think we could see him hit a lot of threes, get a lot of steals, keep the turnovers low, and we might see a boost to his percentages because that's the Steph Curry effect. So Otto Porter Jr. I think is a very, very intriguing sleeper. Average pick of 141. I'd strongly consider him. Cam Reddish, we saw him do well in the playoffs, but there's a lot of mouths to feed on that team. Only 5% drafted. Maybe in a deeper format makes sense for you. Shake Milton, 0% drafted with Ben Simmons potentially out and gone. We might see Shake Milton getting consistent playing time, and we might see some more consistent production. He's a 6-man type player, and I think he can carve out some value in that role. Considering 0% drafted, that means he'll be available in some of your deeper formats, and that's probably where I would keep him. Kevin Porter Jr. has an average pick of 82, but it's projected at 198, so proceed with caution, okay? The upside is tremendous, but he's one of those players that hurts you in more categories than he helps you, even when he helps you well in the categories he helps you. So just keep that in mind. Kendrick Nunn, really like his potential on that Lakers team that is really old. We saw what he did last year when Jimmy Butler was missing time, or there were other players missing time. Kendrick Nunn stepped up and had some really nice production. I think he presents some of the only upside that Lakers team has outside of their top guys, and I think he's going to play himself into a significant role. So only 4% drafted. Kendrick Nunn, someone to keep an eye on. KJ Martin, we saw him produce last year towards the end of the season on that Houston team. I don't know what his playing time is going to be this season, but keep an eye on him. If he carves out a role where he's getting 20 minutes per game, we could see him being a guy that gets you steals, blocks, hits some threes, and helps your field goal percentage. I think he would have some value for you in deeper formats. Terence Mans, only 11% drafted, and you're looking at the guy who's very likely to be Kawhi Leonard's replacement this season. We saw him step up in the playoffs. We've seen him step up in the past when Paul George was injured. So I think we're going to see him produce at a much higher level than he's being drafted. Only average pick of 141, only 11% drafted. I guarantee you he will be on plenty more teams by the end of the season. Patty Mills on a Brooklyn Nets team that might not have Kyrie Irving. It sounds like Patty Mills is going to play himself into a significant role. Hit a ton of three-pointers. His field goal percentage started great, and then it tapered off as the season went on. But the free throw percentage was elite. For a guy that hits that many three-pointers and isn't even being drafted and has a possibility of playing with guys like Kevin Durant and James Harden, Patty Mills makes a lot of sense in deeper formats if you need a point guard. Delon Wright, I wanted to throw him in there because he's a dynamic player as far as his ability to get steals, threes, get some blocks. His percentages were pretty decent, and I'm curious what role he can play himself into on that Atlanta team. I would not draft him in a 12-team or even a 14-team league, but in a very deep format where you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, Delon Wright is someone to keep in mind. Alexey Pokuzki, had to throw him in there. We saw him getting playing time at the end of last season, and his production was pretty insane. He did it all. His percentages were suspect, but he showed he could be a guy that scores, gets assists, hits threes, gets steals, gets blocks. And he's a young player with very unique features. He's a unicorn for sure. And I would take a gamble on him in a deeper format, just in case he does get that playing time. He could be very helpful. Moses Brown's only 7% drafted, but I could see him playing himself into a starting center role on that Dallas Mavericks team, especially on a team that has Kristaps Porzingis, who's always injured. We saw him be an elite rebounder last season when playing for Oklahoma City. Dallas Mavericks traded for him. He was originally with the Celtics as part of the Kemba Walker trade, and now he's with the Dallas Mavericks, and I think he's going to get some playing time. He's only 7% drafted. If you need a guy with rebounding potential who will help your field goal percentage, can get over a block per game, a low-end double-double type player, and you can get him in a deep format, Moses Brown is that guy. Gary Harris, just keep an eye on him. He used to be one of my favorites in fantasy. He's really fallen off. He's on a rebuilding Orlando Magic team. I just keep an eye on him, especially in deeper formats. Luke Kennard, same situation. Kawhi Leonard is injured, and normally he has stepped up when either Paul George or Kawhi is out, and Kawhi might be out the majority of the season. Only 0% drafted. He could present some value in those deeper formats. Moritz Wagner, also on the Orlando Magic. He is a dark horse for some significant playing time, in my opinion, and we've seen him in the past. When he does get the playing time, he produces. He's been on a few different teams. He doesn't seem to stick, but in a 20-team league, I would take a chance on Moritz. Nicholas Claxton, probably severely underrated. Average pick of 131. I like Nicholas Claxton's potential to help your fantasy basketball team. We saw him average 1.3 blocks per game, and this was his first significant action, and he did great. Great field goal percentage, great shot blocking, low turnovers. The free throw percentage left a lot to be desired, but he was a very young player. He was dealing with a knee injury the majority of the season. So now that he's had the experience he's had, I'm very excited to see what he does this season. Nicholas Claxton is probably going to be in a lot of my deeper formats, and I might even gamble and draft him with my last pick in some 12-team leagues, to be honest. Max has done okay in preseason. Probably too many mouths to feed to have any real value outside of a very deep format, but again, somebody to keep in mind. Thaddeus Young, average pick of 122. I'm curious to see what he does on that Spurs team. If they're rebuilding, so I don't know if he's going to get the playing time, but we saw him on a Chicago Bulls team last year we thought was rebuilding, and he ended up getting significant playing time and doing really well. So something to keep in mind. Enes Kanter, average pick of 135, only 46% drafted. I don't know what his role is going to be. Last time he played with the Celtics, he did not do well, but he had a very strong season with the Blazers last year, with Jusuf Nurkic missing a lot of the season. If he plays himself into a starting role or a significant six-man role, he's a guy that can help your percentages. He's a guy that can get you a low-end double-double. Not really going to help anything outside of that. So if you are desperate for a big man in a deep format, he's somebody you might want to eye. Mo Harkless, adding him because he's on a Sacramento team that's likely to give him some playing time, and he's shown in the past that he can hit threes, steals, blocks. So if he plays himself into a role where he's getting 25 minutes per game, he could present some value in a really deep format. Landry Shamet is now with the Phoenix Suns, and in a deep format, Landry Shamet is just a really good three-point shooter. That's probably all he's going to do, but I like the idea of him playing with Chris Paul and helping stretch the floor in a really deep format. If you're desperate for threes, you're probably not going to do much better than Landry Shamet. Goga Bitadze. He's somebody, I probably butchered that, but he produces when Miles Turner is injured. He gets a bunch of blocks in limited playing time. You saw last year he averaged 1.4 blocks. The percentages leave a lot to be desired. But if you're in a really deep format and maybe you have Miles Turner, it makes a lot of sense to draft Goga as a handcuff. That way, if Miles Turner ever gets injured, then you have his backup and you're still padding and protecting your blocks. Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is really a good Luka Doncic handcuff. More than anything, he had a really strong season last year. If you see, the percentages were really nice. The free throw percentage ended up dropping off. It was better towards the beginning and then it kind of tapered off. But he just contributed points, a little bit of rebounds, a little bit of assists, a little bit of threes. Low end production for sure, but in a very deep format, if you have Luka Doncic, it makes sense to have a handcuff, because that would be really painful. Cole Anthony in a really deep format. He's shown potentials and flashes, but so far, not enough where I would recommend him outside of a deep format. Mo Bamba, he is being drafted at 130, 75% drafted. He's projected at 206. I at least wanted to mention him because he does get blocks. He does get 3-pointers. And like I mentioned before, it's a huge question mark what that center rotation is looking like in Orlando. So he might end up getting the starting role. It might be Wendell Carter Jr. I think that remains to be seen. Even if one is set for opening night, I think the players are so young and almost comparable that could change quickly. All right, we are almost done, guys. And the last guy I wanted to discuss is Precious Achiuwa. I'm sure that his name's not Precious Achiuwa, but if you let me know in the comments the right way to pronounce it, I'll apologize in the next video and say it correctly. The reason I'm dropping him, he's only 4% drafted, but he's on the Toronto Raptors team that has Chris Boucher missing the beginning of the season, okay? And Pascal Siakam's also missing the beginning of the season. So that's opening up playing time. If he produces in that playing time, he might carve out a long-term role. So considering he's not being drafted at all, if you're in a deep format, I would take a gamble on Precious. He's shown he could rebound. He's shown he could put up some low-end big man production when given the minutes, and he might be given the minutes. All right, guys, I really scraped through this list, and this should cover all league sizes. It's a long video, but I think it's probably going to be one of the most valuable I've made. It's jam-packed with information for you to make smart decisions, okay? That's all it comes down to. Figure out what your strategy is, build your strategy off of your one or top two guys, and just build around their strengths, and you want to smooth away their weaknesses. That's what it's all about. But all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. If you like this content, please leave a comment, share it, like it, smash that like button for me. Until next time, this is Barack Lesnar of Barack Lesnar Hoops. Good night.